The Extra Point with Ryan Justice is sponsored by The Phone Medic. For the best in cell phone, tablet, or laptop repairs, The Phone Medic is the only choice for you. The Phone Medic also offers gaming PCs and laptops for both gamers and everyday users. Visit one of the 3 Phone Medic locations in Amarillo, Canyon, and their new location in Lubbock today. Hello, football fans! Welcome to The Extra Point with Ryan Justice. What a crazy week 10 we've had in the NFL. Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday night, and welcome to The Extra Point. My name's Ryan Justice. Andy is going to be joining us here in a little bit, but man, what a week 10 it was. Lots of close games. Several games decided by 1 point. A lot of them decided by 3 points or less in the NFL. Huge week on tap that we got coming up. But guys, man, we're getting close. It's starting to get down to the nitty-gritty in the NFL playoff picture. Starting to take a little bit of shape. We're starting to see who might end up where. Some divisions starting to be pulled away or coming into a little bit clearer picture. But man, there's a lot to talk about tonight on The Extra Point. Before we get started, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Sound off in the chats, represent your team, shout out your favorite players. Let me know whether or not you agree or disagree. But most importantly, like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification button if you're on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. Next day on Spotify, go follow there too if you guys want to go ahead and hear the audio version of the show tonight. But again, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Go check out our sponsors as well, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. And let's get right into it, guys. We're going to start off with hot topics. And the big news of the day, Shane Waldron fired in Chicago. The Bears fired their offensive coordinator after they just could not get the offense going ever since the Hail Mary in the Washington game. Caleb Williams has just not looked the same. And there was actually a meeting with the players, according to some reports, where they asked for Shane Waldron to be fired. And they also asked for Caleb Williams to be benched. So it looks like there is some turmoil going on in Chicago after a pretty decent start. You know, Chicago's a 4-win team. They're 4-5. They're sitting at the bottom of the NFC North, a very competitive NFC North. And they had some momentum. They looked good for a couple weeks there, ran into Washington, and then just could not get it done after that. And now they fire their OC. I look at this as this is just the beginning. This is Matt Eberflus possibly trying to save his job. Matt Eberflus is definitely a man who I think is going to be replaced at the end of the season. You're already starting to see members of the coaching staff go down. You're already starting to see members of the offense kind of falling apart. It doesn't look like the locker room has fully bought into Caleb Williams. It doesn't look like the locker room has fully gotten themselves to a point where they believe in the number 1 overall pick. And if I'm being honest, I don't think Matt Eberflus has gotten the best out of Caleb Williams as well. If I'm looking at their offense right now, it's towards the bottom of the league. They're actually number 29 in the league in terms of yards per game with the offense. They're only averaging about 169 yards per game passing. I thought they'd have a better run game. I thought DeAndre Swift was going to do a little bit better for them. They've got a solid wide receiving core, and I feel like the Bears have potential, but this falls a lot on coaching. There's been a lot of questionable decisions. The game plans just don't seem to be working when it comes to the Chicago Bears. They have a guy like DeAndre Swift who they just cannot seem to get going. They cannot seem to be getting DJ Moore the ball. And man, I feel like that if the Bears keep going the way they're going, if we don't see some kind of spark out of Chicago this weekend, I feel like we're going to be heading towards Matt Eberflus being fired before the season is over. I feel like it's coming at the end of the season anyway. But if Chicago cannot turn it around with the decisions that they made today, they are going to be they're going to be looking for a new head coach. Didn't have this one on the doc sheet today. I meant to put it on there as a graphic. Dak Prescott is done for the season-ending IR. He's having season-ending surgery on his torn hamstring. He is done. So is Cooper Rush taking over for the rest of the season? Maybe some Trey Lance for the Dallas Cowboys. And if it looks anything like it did this past weekend against Philly, Cowboys fans, it's going to be a rough season for you guys. And they're in some trouble. Dallas has made some news this past week with, everything from AT&T Stadium to the moves that Jerry made to who's going to be the quarterback of the team to not really getting anything at the trade deadline. It's everything's being put under a microscope right now in Dallas, and they're going to be looked at. I told you guys at the beginning of the season this was coming. Dallas didn't do anything in the offseason after losing 7 starters, backups, guys that they could have been developing, and they didn't do anything to replace them. Now you've got a very expensive quarterback who is missing the rest of the season. You've got a very expensive wide receiver who is very unhappy with the team and is pointing out a lot of the obvious things about this team that are wrong. A lot of quiet parts around the Dallas organization are being said out loud now, of everything from the tours, from the way the stadium is designed. I mean, you saw it right there in CeeDee Lamb's face on that touchdown or would-be touchdown in the end zone. And I've been in that stadium when the sun is coming in. It is bright. You cannot see if you are looking into that end zone, into the sun. It is right there in your face if you are there for a 3:00 game. Jerry Jones refuses to say anything about it. He went to the extreme and said, you might as well tear the whole damn stadium down. It's not that, Jerry. If WWE can put some curtains there, you can too. But it is falling apart in Dallas. And, I predicted 6-11 for the season. And looking at it now, that may be generous. And now I'm wondering what they're going to do when it comes time for the draft. What are they going to do with a top 10 pick? And Dallas has been in this position before. Dallas has been in this position where they've had a bad season. They get a top 10 pick, and he turns out to be a stud. I'll give Jerry credit for that. He, guys like Zeke Elliott, guys like Micah Parsons were all picked in the top 10 of the draft, and they ended up being game changers for the Dallas Cowboys. But they only get them so far because the problem still remains that Jerry is not making enough moves in the offseason to set this team up to go further in the playoffs. He is making moves to sell tickets, but not to go further in the playoffs. And I feel like he's going to get that stud draft pick. He's going to get that next guy who could be the face of the franchise on a cheap contract for the next few years and kind of stay pat. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if he does turn it around in this offseason. Maybe this is the wake-up call that he needs. But he's going to go the rest of the season without his franchise quarterback, the highest paid quarterback in the league, by the way. Next up, saw this. Daniel Jones is the subject of some reports that he might have played his last snap in New York. And we brought this up on Buy or Sell a few weeks ago. Hang on, I just got a message from Andy. We brought this up on Buy or Sell a few weeks ago that Daniel Jones could have played his last snap as a New York Giant after signing that huge contract, after signing the big deal to stay in New York. And man, it's probably one of the most boneheaded things I've seen Joe Schoen do. And you pair that with letting Saquon Barkley walk, and it all being on tape with Hard Knocks. I felt like had Daniel this would have been Daniel Jones's last year anyway had he not signed the extension. It's time to completely rebuild in New York. And if I know Jim Mara is loyal to a fault at certain times, but he is also he needs to pull the trigger on this. I don't know about Daboll, but Joe Schoen needs to go for what happened with letting Saquon go. You haven't gotten any kind of offense out of Daniel Jones. Malik Neighbors, great pick, but you're in the bottom half of the league in terms of total offense. You're averaging right above 300 yards a game. Your passing numbers are atrocious. You're not even you haven't bumped up over 200 yards yet passing. Daniel Jones has looked horrible. Tyrone Tracy, Malik Neighbors, they've been kind of some of the rookie standouts. They have a great defensive line leading the league in sacks, but that's about it for the New York Giants. There's nothing really much to be excited about. This team needs to rebuild, at least on the offensive side of the ball. They need to get a new GM. They need to get a GM that is actually going to go out and get the pieces this team needs and make significant moves to upgrade this roster. They're going to end up being a top 3 pick, which means a new quarterback is probably going to come in and take over. So, but yeah, reports are looking like Daniel Jones might have played his last snap as a New York Giant. With that, we're going to go ahead and get to game reactions. Andy is on his way. He should be here joining us here in a little bit. But we started off Thursday night with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens, and man, what a game they had. Joe Burrow, 5 touchdowns and lost the game. Ja'Marr Chase absolutely put on a show in this game, and they exploited the Ravens' pass defense, which has been a weakness for this team this season. The offense is what usually gets talked about with Baltimore, but what I don't think a lot of people are really talking about is how this defense has performed. And they don't really have much of a pass rush. They did trade for Tre'Davious White, but game was too close for him to be active for it, so he wasn't a factor in this game. And Ja'Marr Chase, they ran all over him. They let Ja'Marr Chase go. He had 264 yards receiving. I mean, it was just an absolute clinic by the Cincinnati Bengals. And Joe Burrow, 428 yards, 5 touchdowns, and they lose by a point. Which has to be 4 touchdowns. I apologize. Has to be frustrating. Burrow rushed for 1 as well. But to me, this game showed that the Ravens are beatable. The Ravens are not this unstoppable force that everyone thinks they are. They held Derrick Henry to 68 yards rushing and on 16 carries. He had a touchdown, but they were able to hold Derrick Henry under 100 yards. They were able to hold Lamar Jackson under 50 yards. So Cincinnati found something in this Ravens offense that didn't allow them to really get going the way we had seen them get going before. Now, Lamar Jackson did have 290 yards passing, 141.4 passer rating. He has improved tremendously in his passing game, which makes him all the more dangerous, makes Lamar Jackson's MVP candidacy a lot more legitimate. And that's the scary part about Baltimore. That's the scary part about this team. And how's it going? Oh, there we go. Thank you for the Twitch comment. I'd love to see that. Love to be at the 50 follower mark. We want to get there, guys. We want to get to the 50 follower mark for affiliation. But definitely like, share, subscribe to the show, and we'll get there. We'll get to that affiliation status. But with the Bengals, I'm looking at this team, and they are not out of it yet. Ja'Marr Chase, like I said, 11 catches, 264 yards. Can't all go through him. Chase Brown, though, has emerged as a star for this team. He had almost 100. He had almost 100 yards from scrimmage total, both receiving and rushing, and they just couldn't get it done. Cincy, another heartbreaker on Thursday night. They get the mini bye, and they do get some time to heal, to lick their wounds, to really get to a point where they got to win. They're in some must-win games, and they face the Chargers on Sunday night, a great defense. We got to see if T. Higgins will be active for this game, but they're going to need Joe Burrow again to play at a high level if they want to get past that Chargers defense. The game of the week for me on this one, like I said, we had a lot of games that were close, very close this weekend, and between some contenders, and we got a good lineup this weekend too, but Pittsburgh went to Washington And boy, what a game that was. Another 1-point game between two teams who are playoff bound. Maybe a Super Bowl preview if I'm being honest, if they can get lucky. I don't know about the Steelers yet, but there was great defense in this game. We saw the offenses shine, and we saw the stars kind of come out. Russell Wilson, 3 touchdowns and an interception. The Steelers defense did give Jaden Daniels some trouble, held him to 50% completion, 202 yards, so not the typical light up the scoreboard game that we've seen from Jaden Daniels, but they went back and forth this whole game. Eckler had 2 touchdowns on 13 carries. Terry McLaurin had a great game, over 100 yards. But George Pickens went off in this game and really shined. The catch that George Pickens made to score was ridiculous. And it just goes to show you what George Pickens can do when he's got a good passing quarterback under center. And I'm not gonna lie, like this is kind of a renaissance of Russell Wilson. And I don't know how long he can keep it up, but as long as he does keep this up and doesn't have to go out and be superstar Russ, the Steelers team is going to compete. The Steelers team could possibly win this division. And I feel like with the defense that they have and the blueprint that Cincy has kind of laid out in stopping Baltimore this week, this Steelers-Ravens game that's going to happen this week is huge. And I think it's really going to I think whoever wins this game on Sunday between the Steelers and the Ravens is going to be the team to beat in the AFC. That's not named Kansas City. And because Pittsburgh just looks like the most balanced team in the league to me. They can run the ball with Najee Harris. Jaylen Warren actually got some good run in this game. They can pass. You've got Pickens. Now you've got Mike Williams. Freiermuth has always been a solid tight end for this team. And I don't see how the Steelers can go backwards from where they are, from the level that they are playing at. And they played a great team in the Commanders. This was not a pushover team. This was a team in the Commanders that I do feel like needs some pieces. And those pieces I think are going to come in the offseason. But it was a great test for both teams, honestly. This was a great game to watch. What wasn't a great game to watch was watching the Jets and the Cardinals. These two teams kind of had the best record in the late window. And the Cardinals just absolutely handed it to the Jets. They could not get the offense going. Aaron Rodgers looked every bit his age, disconnected with Devontae Adams, disconnected with Garrett Wilson. The Cardinals were all over the Jets from the jump. And you saw Kyler Murray making Kyler Murray-like plays. You saw the Jets just absolutely not be able to get things going. I want to say this Arizona team is sneaky. This Arizona team is going to be a team to watch. They're under the radar, I feel like, especially for a first-place team. I did not expect them to be first place in the NFC West. They held Rodgers to under 200 yards. Kyler Murray, 266 and a touchdown. James Conner was actually really good in the passing game. He had a good balanced game, both on the ground and through the air. Marvin Harrison had a touchdown. Two guys that are emerging that aren't named Marvin Harrison are going to be Trey Benson and Trey McBride. Those are two guys who are becoming absolute stars for this Cardinals team, and I think they're going to help carry this team with Kyler Murray, who isn't looking like he needs to be a superstar to win these games. He's playing really well, and I feel like the main thing that they are wanting is for him to get Marvin Harrison Jr. going. But these other pieces that they have on the offense, McBride, Benson, James Conner, this has become a really nice little offense that the Cardinals have put together. And if I'm looking at their rankings, they're creeping into they're starting to creep into the top 10 in the league. They're starting to creep into the top 10 in the league. And I don't know. Maybe chalk it up to an easy schedule. Maybe chalk it up to no one really took Arizona seriously. But this is a team that I feel like is very capable of winning this division. They need to get better defensively, but I'm thinking this Arizona team has a shot, at least at a wild card. The Jets, on the other hand, people were saying, hey, maybe this is the turnaround after the Thursday night game against the Texans. Maybe this is where we finally see the Jets click. Maybe this is the Jets we've all been waiting for. No. The Jets that you saw in this game are who the New York Jets are. Aaron Rodgers is not going to reach into the fountain of youth and pull out magic. He's not going, this is the New York Jets are a team that it was built specifically to feed Aaron Rodgers' ego. And it is showing. It is showing. Every time they step on that field, it is showing how they let Aaron Rodgers dictate how this team is built. And it has rotted this team from within. They got Robert Saleh fired. They're going to get this entire coaching staff fired. Rodgers may not even be there next year. Davante Adams will be. Mike Williams left because of Aaron Rodgers, because he got thrown under the bus by his quarterback. It's not going to get any better in New York, and it's going to get way worse. I feel like this is probably Aaron Rodgers' worst season that he's had, and he's not going to admit it. He's not going to take accountability when he needs to for everything that happened on the field on Sunday. And they're playing their way into a top 10 pick. And I don't think it's going to be a quarterback because they're going to want Aaron Rodgers back. When they probably should get a young rookie quarterback. They've got a good wide receiving core. If I'm a young rookie quarterback, I would look at the Jets and say, man, I get to throw to Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson. I get to have Breece Hall behind me. I get to have a really good defense. Give me a quarterback that's not Aaron Rodgers. Give me a play caller that is not reading out of the Aaron Rodgers offense for dummies book. And this Jets team could be good. Give me a coach that can actually go in there and not lose the locker room, not feed another guy's ego. And this Jets team could turn it around like that. But, I mean, right now, Jets fans are going to have to suffer. Like that. That's it. This isn't the last game where that this team is going to look like this. I wanted to avoid this game. I really, really did. This game was about this game brought back some bad memories. Go ahead and pull it up for you guys. Texans Lions. If there was any game that's a tale of two halves, it was this one. That's been the entire season for the Houston Texans. I know a lot of people are kind of pointing out their second half struggles these last couple of weeks. That's because they've been on primetime. And these second half struggles have been there the entire season. They have not been, even if they come out, even if they have a great first half, much like they did on Sunday night. I was happy that they shuffled the line. I was worried that Nico Collins was not going to be in this game when he should have been, even though he was healthy. And I was worried that they were going to give us some hope in the first half and come out and be flat in the second half. And that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did. They had scored 0 points in the second half. A lot of people were focused on the Texans O-line. Well, they needed to also be focused on what was happening in the second half of these games. Most importantly, these last 4. They have not scored a second half touchdown in the last 4 weeks since the Patriots game. And that was against a very bad team. And now what I worry about for this Texans team, their next 3 games are Dallas, Tennessee, Jacksonville. And I worry that they're going to come out and look like they've fixed these problems against these bad teams, and everyone's going to think everything's fixed. After they come out of the bye, after these next 3 games and they come out of the bye, it's Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens. And that That's where I feel like these problems are going to bubble up again unless they get this fixed. Bobby Slowick needs to have a fire under his ass. And these last 2 seasons, the season and a half that he's been the OC for the Texans, it feels like he has been drugged kicking and screaming into making changes on the offense, into doing what is necessary to get CJ Stroud going, into getting into the short passing game, getting away from the run. God, how long did they hammer away with Dameon Pierce last year before they made the change to Devin Singletary? The screen, Bobby Slowick will get going. He will get something going. He will have something that works. And then all of a sudden, he'll take a left turn in the play calling. He'll get too cute. He'll get away from keeping it simple and keeping it easy. And screw up an entire drive. It'll get CJ sacked out of field goal range. It'll get CJ hit. And I don't even want to go into Titus Howard trying to strip sack his own quarterback, you know? But this team has to get better in adjusting. I know the response is, hey, you only got 12 minutes at halftime. What second half adjustments are you going to make? Make them during the game. Watch what the defense is doing. Pay attention. There are layers. He's running the Shanahan offense. There are layers to it. It should not be this hard to run that offense. It wasn't last year. What's frustrating about this is we watched the Texans in the playoffs make the number 1 defense in the league and the Cleveland Browns look absolutely stupid. That was Bobby Slowick. That was Bobby Slowick's doing. And the execution of the offense. What happened? My theory, my suspicion on this is that for all this talk of the Texans eating the rat poison over the offseason, of the players eating the rat poison in the offseason, I didn't really hear about the coaches. I didn't really hear about, hey, the coaches need to watch eating the rat poison too. And I feel like with these head coaching interviews that he got, with these comparisons to somebody like Ben Johnson, who is going to be a head coach next year, Bobby Slowick ate the rat poison. Bobby Slowick thought he could get too cute with this play calling, and it ended up biting the Texans. I'll have more on Bobby Slowick a little bit later on in the show. On the other side of this game, the Detroit Lions. I'm beginning to wonder how good this offense really is. I'm beginning to wonder if there is some smoke and mirrors being played here. Don't get me wrong. Jared Goff, these last few games, has had very efficient games. There's been some games where this Lions team has looked absolutely unstoppable. But in their last 3 games, they have been outgained by a lot. Sometimes 2-1. Over 2-1 in these games. And Jared Goff goes up against a top 5 defense and gets picked off 5 times. Write one of them off as a Hail Mary. Fine. But he threw 4 interceptions. He threw into coverage. He was not reading what the Texans were doing. He was not seeing it. They had him completely fooled. The Texans may not have gotten a bunch of sacks, but they had a ton of pressure on Jared Goff. And it showed. It showed that when you get in Jared Goff's face, he's not going to run out of the pocket. Jared Goff's not going to scramble. He's not going to beat you with his legs. So what's he going to do? He's going to chunk it up. And guess what? Your guys can be there. Or they can tip it. So I think the Texans, and yeah, you can say they were playing, the Lions had their backup left tackle in. But the Lions are going to be playing some much better defenses as the year goes on. And if Jared Goff is going to play like that when teams bring pressure, man, the Lions could have some pretty bad cracks in their armor. The first half, the defense wasn't there. And you could say Zadarius Smith wasn't playing, or it's because they don't have Aiden Hutchinson. Okay, who else on that defensive line is going to scare you? Is it DJ Reader? Okay, DJ Reader has been in the league around 10 years. He's an aging player. I mean, Brian Branch had a hell of a game. And he's a very good, they have a developing secondary, but the Lions defense is not a defense that I am sitting there quaking in my boots over. In fact, the Lions defense is in the bottom third of the league. They're allowing 345 yards a game. 244 through the air, just over 100 on the ground. This is a team you can move the ball on. This is a team that is not a dominant defense. I don't care what Aiden Hutchinson was doing before he got hurt. And if the Texans hadn't shot themselves in the foot in the second half and CJ threw the ball, didn't underthrow a ball, this would have been a 30-7 game. This would have been a blowout. I'm going to look into it a little bit more. I want to see how they're playing Jacksonville this week, which that's going to kind of skew the data a little bit. But I think this Lions team is beatable. They're very beatable. And when they get into the playoffs, I want to see if some of these cracks in the armor come back to bite them. We'll see. Monday night, we had the Dolphins and the Rams. And the week before, the Dolphins played the Bills, lost by 3, looked a lot better on offense. But this game, I thought their defense played pretty well. They got Stafford to make mistakes. They made sure that, they weren't letting the Rams' weapons get ahead of them. Stafford had to throw the ball 46 times. And anytime I think you have an older quarterback, or any quarterback for that matter, who has to throw the ball 46 times, it means something's not working. And it didn't. I wasn't seeing a whole lot out of Kyren Williams, 15 carries, 62 yards. Puka Nacua, just under 100 yards, but no touchdowns. The story of this game was the Rams could not get it done in the red zone. The Rams were kicking field goals. They'd get it down there, and then they would just stall. The Dolphins bend but didn't break. And field goals aren't going to win you games. I don't care what the Minnesota Vikings say. They did that against Jacksonville. But all field goals offense is not going to win you games. If you had their kicker on fantasy, good. You got some great production out of that kicker. But they have to be able to score. They have to be able to have explosive plays. And I thought they were. The Dolphins had a great game plan at holding Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp in check. I mean, 98 and 80 yards, yes, you can look at it and go, okay, that's, still quite a bit of yardage for this team to allow, but there were no touchdowns. And it was just over, 10 yards per catch between the two of them. Kupp had 11. And it wasn't anything spectacular. I mean, this, if I'm being honest, I didn't think it was a really good game. But you saw the Dolphins start to get it going. One thing that is concerning me, though, about Miami, they aren't getting their stars involved. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane, they kind of fell off the map. Where are they? Odell Beckham. I forgot Odell Beckham was on this team. I mean, I straight up forgot Odell Beckham was on this team. And it's kind of been a group effort for the Dolphins these last couple of weeks. Tua coming back definitely has elevated the play as far as the quarterback goes. He needs to quit trying to get himself concussed. But, Tua 20 of 28, 207 yards, touchdown and interception. Not a terrible game. I still think Tua's trying to work himself back into form. But this was a good win by the Dolphins because the Rams were getting some momentum. Can they keep it going? I'm not sure about that. I don't think that the Dolphins are going to be able to keep this going, especially when the Bills are so far ahead in the division and Miami's out of the wild card. Like they're not officially out, but they got a lot of ground to make up. Are there some teams that they could pass where they can make a run at it? Maybe. But as far as the wild card goes, I just Dolphins fans, I'd honestly try to get to maybe 7 or 8 wins and be happy with it, especially with the way this season has gone. But they need to get their stars involved. Tyreek Hill needs to have more than, 16 yards passing. He did catch a touchdown. Give him that. He caught a touchdown on 4 targets. He had 3 catches, 16 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets, but he was averaging 5.3 yards a carry. Happy to see Jalen Waddle come back, but I need to see more. I need to see more of the Dolphins. That'll do it for the game reactions, guys. We're going to get into 3 up, 3 down here in a second. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for everyone who has hopped on. Rep your team. Shout them out in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. Let us know, guys. Every Tuesday right here, 8:30. Waiting on Andy to come in. He should be in here in a little bit. But every Tuesday, 8:30, guys. We're right here. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Next Date on Spotify. Go check out our sponsors, Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. For all your tech repair and needs, gaming consoles, laptops, PCs, phones, tablets, you name it. They could probably help out with it out at the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. Go hit up Gabe. Tell him you heard about him from the Extra Point. So we're going to go ahead and get into 3 up and 3 down for you guys that aren't familiar with 3 up and 3 down. Kind of picked my favorite performances for the week, or guys that I thought should be recognized, and then guys I thought should be piled on. So I got some surprises in 3 up, 3 down this week. We have a first. We have a first when it comes to the top of the mountain. And it'll be interesting. So first up on the up list is actually Bryce Young. And I know his numbers don't stand out, but the Panthers have a 2-game winning streak. And I get they beat the Giants, but with everything that Carolina has gone through, a 2-game winning streak is, I believe, going into the bye, that's amazing for them. Because Carolina, going into the season and coming off of last season, was looking like the absolute dumpster fire that they should have been for giving up all those picks to get Bryce Young, to get the number 1 pick in the draft. And for Bryce Young, I mean, he needed something like this. After watching all these other quarterbacks do what they have done in the league, Bryce Young needed something, some kind of positivity. And getting a win, I get it was in Germany, getting the win in Germany, going on a 2-game win streak, they needed it, especially going into the bye. Now they get some time to kind of reset and recharge and hopefully continue it. I believe their next game in week 12, which will be Thanksgiving week, they are... Where are you at, Carolina? They're actually playing Kansas City. They're going to need the rest. I mean, they'll have a little bit of positivity going into that game. But, I mean, hey, you know what? 2-game win streak. Baby steps, guys. Baby steps. But yeah, Bryce Young on the up list this week. Give him a hand. He deserves it. Next up, the Los Angeles Chargers. So they have kind of quietly built a contending team. I think a lot of people thought that Jim Harbaugh coming back, yes, going to make a difference, going to turn this team into something. They're on a 3-game win streak. They're second in the West. And they're a team that looks like they can beat the Chiefs. Heck, they held the Chiefs to 17 points when they played. And they got a meeting coming up where I think they could get the Chiefs. They're one of the teams on my list, especially after the way the Chiefs played against Denver. They're one of the teams that I feel like could get the Chiefs, could beat Kansas City. And especially with the way Harbaugh is playing and coaching this team, I'm looking at their defense. They're actually a top 10 defense in the league. Their offense could use some work. I do like what they've done in the run game. They're in the bottom third as far as offense goes. I do like what they've done in the run game, though. They're averaging 118 yards a game rushing. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, they've played really well. You've had some good plays out of Quentin Johnston, but they had a good win this past week, and they got the Bengals coming up, which is going to be a test. I'm not counting the Bengals, despite their record. I'm not counting out Cincy, and they are a team that I feel like could make some noise if they get in with the wild card. And in just 1 year, Jim Harbaugh has really brought out the best in this team. I feel like there's improvements that could be made with the offense, but if anyone can get it out of them, it's Jim Harbaugh. So, top of the mountain. This is a first because I think it's the first time I've had a guy from a losing team reach the top of the mountain, but he deserves it. Top of the mountain this week goes to Baker Mayfield. And again, his numbers don't really stand out, but it's his effort. Him fighting off seemingly every 49ers player there was on the field and completing a pass while just stiff-arming a guy in the face, that shows you who Baker Mayfield is. This Bucs team, now that they don't have Mike Evans, they don't have Chris Godwin. Evans will come back. But without those guys, Baker's kind of had to carry this team on his back. And I feel like even though they've lost 2 in a row, I feel like he's done a really good job of it. He is this team's fight. And in games where they could have been blown out, where I think some people may have even expected them to be blown out, Baker Mayfield was the difference in almost willing his team into keeping these games close. And I gotta hand it to him, man. I gotta hand it to him on effort alone that Baker Mayfield deserves to be at the top of the mountain this week. And once Mike Evans gets back, this team I think is going to start winning again. I don't know what it's looking like for them in the division. They're in second place. They're 2 games back from Atlanta, but Atlanta got beat by the Atlanta's beatable. Atlanta's very beatable. And who knows? Get Mike Evans back, get a little bit of momentum going, and I think we'll see Tampa right back in the division hunt. Well, we went 3 up, and now we're going to go 3 down. First up on the down list, Jets defense. Jets defense is here because since Robert Saleh has been fired, they have allowed the second most points in the league. And while their pass rush, great pass rush. They can bring pressure from everywhere. They're getting run over. The play calling has been awful. They are absolutely just getting steamrolled by better teams. Arizona exposed them again for the frauds that they are. And the Jets defense is just allowing anyone to score, unless you're the Texans in the second half. They're just allowing whoever they want to score. So down, Jets defense. We do have a player from a winning team on the down list this week, and that is Jared Goff. 240 yards, 50% completion percentage. It's the 5 interceptions for me. Again, I know one of them is Hail Mary, but what are you saying about the other 4? And the fact that they got the win, to me, that says more about the Texans than it does about the Lions. But Jared Goff, I feel like, got exposed. And I feel like the Texans did a good job of showing, hey, this is how you can get Jared Goff to make some huge mistakes. And even in a win, Jared Goff on the down list this week. And I want to see if I want to see if this trend kind of stays there. Jacksonville doesn't have a bad defense. They've got a good defensive line, so they can bring pressure. Maybe they see what the Texans did, bring some pressure, and cause Jared Goff to make some big mistakes. This week, though, and I may go on a little bit more of a rant here. I said I was going to bring it up again. This week's Factory of Sadness goes to my Houston Texans offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowik. This isn't just the last 4 games. This is all season. This has been since week 1. Why the hell can you not adjust in the second half? You can have a great first half, an amazing first half, but then you will not do what you need to do to, how's it going, Go Jab? You will not do what you need to do to win in the second half. 0 points? 0 in the second half? You have not scored a second half touchdown since the Patriots game a month ago. You let Jacksonville hang around. You let the crappy ass Colts hang around. There are teams that this team, top to bottom on paper, with or without Stephon Diggs, with or without Will Anderson, there are teams top to bottom that this team is better than. And you can't score in the second half. Why? Why is it for a guy who got all these head coaching opportunities, interviews last year and decided to stay with the Texans, for a guy who embarrassed the number 1 defense in the league in the playoffs last year? Why is it so hard for you to make adjustments? When we know you're capable of doing it, because we saw it last year. We saw you move away from trying to cram Dameon Pierce in everyone's face to Devin Singletary and spreading this defense out and letting C.J. Stroud do what C.J. Stroud is good at. Why is it that you have to get cute when you have mechanics in this offense that are working, when you can get the quick game going, when you can get smart runs going? Why did it take you so long to pull Kenyon Green off the offensive line? You are not the smartest guy in the room. That is what sinks good teams. And I get it. Bobby Slowik is way smarter than me when it comes to offense. But the product I am seeing on the field shows me that you are being stubborn, that you are being boneheaded, and you are unwilling to do what is necessary because you want to make it work. You want to be the guy who unlocks the potential of this person who is facing all this adversity. No, this team is supposed to be a contender. This team was supposed to be in the Super Bowl mix. We were supposed to be up there with the Chiefs and the Bills. And you shoot yourself in the foot time and time again. I will be in attendance for Texans Cowboys. And I have no problem voicing my displeasure about Bobby Slowik while I'm there. I want to see this team go to Dallas and do what I have seen other teams in person do. I'm not saying they need to dominate them and embarrass them like the Lions did, but they definitely need to decisively show that they are the better team on the field. You have a top 3 defense. You have a quarterback who won Rookie of the Year, who looked like he could be the next guy, whose jersey is the number 1 selling jersey in the league right now. And you are making him look stupid. You are making people doubt him because your play calling has been so atrocious and so predictable that in the second half, people are flat out embarrassing you. You have an offensive line that is more concerned with Instagram and fashion than they are about being killers and getting guys away from your quarterback who is the future of your franchise. Guys who are more worried about being the highest paid lineman in the league than they are about protecting the number one asset this team has. And it all falls back on you. And DeMeco Ryans is not out of the woods with this yet. It is unacceptable. As a Texans fan, this is absolutely unacceptable. And there needs to be a change. And I get there's growing pains. I understand that. I understand with young teams, there are a ton of growing pains. I wasn't expecting CJ to have a sophomore slump. This is why I kind of pumped the brakes on all the hype for the Texans. 12-5 is attainable. Don't get me wrong. I still think they can do that because I think they can beat the Dolphins. But they're going to get to the playoffs. And I really feel like they're going to end up in the same spot that they ended up in last year. They'll beat a wild card team, which right now they're playing the Ravens. Although I think, who knows, with the way the Ravens defense is played, they might could get them. But they'll beat a wild card team. They'll get to the divisional round, and the boys will get separated from the men. You know, if Bobby Slowick doesn't adjust, then a change needs to be made. We saw it with the Bears. And a lot of people turn their heads towards the Texans. But this week, Bobby Slowick, unless I see some change, especially against the Cowboys, unless I see some change, you are the factory of sadness. And you will continue to be the factory of sadness for the Houston Texans. I knew I was going to go on a rant about that one. That got me, man. That game got me hot last night or on Sunday night because I thought they had a chance to win. And they were winning the exact way I thought they were going to win, which is the defense playing well, playing out of their mind, even without Will Anderson, getting the guys back that they needed. And I thought they may have had a chance without Nico because CJ and Tank have great chemistry. CJ and Tank have amazing chemistry. But it's that second half, man. Bobby Slowick just cannot get it done in the second half. Now we're on to buy or sell. Still waiting on Andy to get back. Message him real quick. Still waiting on Andy to come in. And this is where you guys can actually interact a little bit more. It's a very interactive segment. I'm going to throw a take at you guys. And we're going to let you know whether we buy or sell. And I want you guys to sound off in the comments too. Let me know if you guys buy or sell these takes. First up on buy or sell. Mentioned it in Hot Topics with the firing of Shane Waldron as the offensive coordinator, but some players went to him, went to the GM, I believe, and they wanted the OC gone, but not Matt Eberflus, surprisingly, although I think that decision is coming sooner rather than later. But some guys were also vying to bench Caleb Williams, which is intriguing because if Caleb Williams has lost that locker room already, it's going to be a long couple years in Chicago. And with the talent that these guys had, with the additions that they made to surround Caleb Williams with guys who could go out and produce, just like with Bobby Slowick, it falls back on the offensive coordinator. And the Bears' offense has been atrocious ever since the Hail Mary. It was time, and Shane Waldron has had some bad play calls all season. The fact that you got DeAndre Swift on this team, you've got a bad offensive line, but the fact that you got DeAndre Swift on this team and you can't get him going, you had a little bit of momentum for a couple weeks, right up until that Washington game, but it's been bad since then. It's been atrocious since then, and you're wasting Caleb Williams. You're wasting your number one overall pick. But I'm actually going to sell this. You don't need to bench Caleb Williams. It is not that bad. He has not been atrocious. He's had some bad moments, but guess what? He is a rookie number one overall pick. There are going to be bad moments. And New England has played better than their record these last couple of weeks. So, it's still New England. They still got a good defense. Drake May is a developing quarterback. Caleb Williams, 16 to 30, 120 yards. But I feel like a lot of it's on the play calling. A lot of it's on the play calling. But yeah, I'm gonna sell benching Caleb Williams this week. Now, this one was from Andy. Buy or sell. Aaron Rodgers runs it back next year. This is the last year of Aaron Rodgers' deal in New York. He does have a dead cap hit next year. I believe it's around $16 million, but he is scheduled to become a free agent. And I believe that the plan was for him to play 2 years for New York, but then he tore his ACL. So what do? Do you run it back with Aaron Rodgers? Wojab's saying bye to run it back with Aaron Rodgers. I think I'm going to sell this because the way the Jets are right now, they're in position to draft a quarterback. I don't want them to draft Shedeur Sanders. I actually don't want any team to draft Shedeur Sanders. The Cowboys would. That would be hilarious. But Aaron Rodgers running it back next year means more of the same problems for me. And they're gonna get a yes man head coach for him. And I don't think it's gonna work out. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers yeah, I mean, right? You're not getting the Aaron Rodgers that I think that the Jets wanted. If you remember, Aaron Rodgers looked washed as hell in his last year at Green Bay. And it's carried over. He very much looks like an old, past his prime quarterback at times. And I get it. He's got his buddies there. You got Davante Adams there. But if I'm the Jets, outside of Aaron Rodgers, I mentioned this earlier on the show. If I'm a young quarterback coming out of the draft and I look at the Jets and I see Garrett Wilson sitting there and Breece Hall and Braylon Edwards and Davante Adams and a good defense and a quarterback that's going to be a free agent. If I'm the Jets and there's a young quarterback in the first round who is hitting, who looks like they could turn this around, I'm getting him. So I'm selling. Granted, I get it's the Jets, and their front office has not always been one to make the right decision, but I'm selling Aaron Rodgers running it back next year. I don't think he comes back. Not after what's happened. The Jets have a chance to completely reset and rebuild, and they have talent. That's one thing they don't have to do is completely churn the roster. But they have a chance to really do something next year. Next up on buy or sell, the Steelers are Super Bowl contenders. I did not have this one before the season. The defense I knew was going to be good. And I thought Russell Wilson coming in, Justin Fields coming in, might have been a step back for them. And I'm as surprised by Russell Wilson sell the Steelers as Super Bowl contenders. I'll go jab. I'm as surprised as anyone with Russell Wilson and how well he's played. And now he's got Mike Williams. Now you've got Mike Williams, George Pickens, who had been playing out of his mind. Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, the run game has gotten going. If they can beat the Baltimore Ravens this week, I definitely have to look at them differently. And I've been looking at them differently. Right now, I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell Steelers are Super Bowl contenders because I don't know how long this momentum for Russell Wilson can last. Eventually, the Russell Wilson that, I mean, we're already kind of seeing it with the story that he's buying his own jerseys at the pro shop come in. And it's just like that. Russell always starts good and then goes back to the same old Russ. And I'm waiting for that other shoe to drop for the Steelers. I mean, and he's buying his own jerseys at the pro shop. I mean, he can't escape being corny. He can't. And Wojab's got one. Dolphins make the playoffs by yourself. I'm actually would sell that one. they're not getting their stars involved in. I forgot Odell Beckham was on that team. So that's how much they're not using the guys that they need to be using. But I think the Steelers make the playoffs. I think there's a good chance they win that division. If they can beat Baltimore, they will be dominant in the North. And I feel like if they beat Baltimore, I'll definitely be looking at them as Super Bowl contenders. This week, though, I'm going to sell. The next one, speaking of contenders, buy or sell. The Eagles are quietly becoming contenders out of the East. You look at it, and Washington, it's a rookie quarterback, young team. They're playing, I believe, a last place schedule. And they've kind of barely gotten by on a few things. Justin Fields to Miami, that'd be interesting. By the Eagles becoming contenders. Here's the thing: I'm looking at the Eagles in their last couple of games. They're beating Dallas, but again, who isn't beating Dallas? They're on a 5-game win streak, and here's who they've beaten: Browns, Giants, Bengals, Jags, and Cowboys. They lose to the Bucks, and that's before Evans and Godwin went down. They lost to the Falcons, who were, the Falcons still have some good pieces. They did, they beat the Packers in the opener. But it's kind of looking to me like they're the same Eagles that we saw last year, where they've got a great record. It looks like they've got a bunch of momentum, but they aren't really beating anybody. The Bengals, it depends on which Bengals team you get. And of course, the Browns, all sorts of problems with the Browns. We know what the Giants, Jags, and Cowboys are. So Thursday is their real test. Thursday is where I'm really going to see if this Eagles team can be an actual contender, because they're playing. This is for first place. This is one of the several games that we have this weekend that are going to be for first place, sole first place. And if they can get past the Commanders, which I kind of felt like the Commanders were going to have some ups and downs. They're going to be good, but they're going to have some ups and downs. I believe this might be the first game Marshawn Lattimore plays for them. But if they can get past the Commanders, then yeah, it's going to be it's like the Steelers. I'm going to be looking at Pittsburgh a little bit differently. But I'm going to sell right now the Eagles becoming contenders, because I just cannot write Washington off. I just can't do it. That does it for buy or sell. So we're going to get into game previews here in a little bit, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Again, like, share, and subscribe. We are trying to get to 50 on Twitch so we can do subscriber exclusive content on Twitch. Things like, fantasy betting, maybe Thursday night previews, Sunday pregames, things like that. Even maybe some live on location stuff if with some of the stuff I'm doing with Fox. Maybe after we do the Cowboys-Texans game, but I want to get to those 50 subscribers first. So again, like, share, and subscribe on Twitch. We'll have next day on Spotify. Go follow me there if you guys want to re-listen to the show, have the audio version of it, so you can get it while you're working out. But yeah, definitely go like, share, and subscribe. Rojab will be on the next Twitch stream. Yeah, let's go. But we got to get to that 50 because I want to get the subscriber exclusive stuff. Giveaways, maybe. Andy and I got some ideas floating around. Maybe we do some, like I said, some on location stuff here around town. But now it's time for game previews. Lines will be provided by ESPN Bet. We got the over-under. Actually, I don't have this one for the Thursday night game. Come on, Ryan. But we start off Thursday, like I said, with the Commanders at Philly. Philly gets the 3.5-point home field advantage. 7-2, 7-3. Whoever comes out of this game is has sole possession of first place in the NFC East. Commanders have had it seemingly all season. Philly is not going anywhere, though. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, everyone's back for Philly. The defense is actually, right now, they passed Houston, and they're the number 2 defense in the league right now in terms of yards per game. Passing, they're only allowing about 173 yards a game passing, 100 yards on the ground. They've allowed less than 1,000 yards all season. That'll probably change after this game. because they're at 906, but under 1,000 yards rushing and we're 11 weeks into the season. That's pretty impressive for this Philly defense. Um, and this is a match again. This are two heavyweights in the NFC, not just in the NFC East. I'm looking at the Washington offense. I'm looking at the Washington offense right now. They're number 4 in the league, averaging 377 yards a game, about 224 yards passing. It's the rushing attack that's really looking good because they're averaging over 150 yards a game rushing, 29 points a game for Washington. And this could end up being a shootout. This might be the most entertaining game this week because you've got two quarterbacks playing out of their mind, and you got a coach that is very much on the up. And then you've also got a coach who some people really want fired, and Nick Sirianni for the Eagles. Andy, again, I'm pretty sure trying to get in contact with him. I know he had some stuff going on tonight, but he did make his pick, and we actually split on this one. I have the Eagles. Andy's got the Commanders. The reason I picked the Eagles was because, again, I just feel like, hey, Hunter, how's it going, man? How's it going? Hunter's monitoring my chat for me a little bit. But yeah, I got the Eagles in this one just because I feel like the Eagles are getting hot. And while I'm not buying them as contenders, I am buying them as a team in the NFC that has some momentum. This is a big test for them. This is a measuring stick. And I feel like they've got it together to pass because this team goes where Saquon Barkley goes. And Saquon Barkley has been playing out of his mind. I mentioned the Commanders at 154 yards per game rushing. The Eagles are at 176, and a lot of that is Saquon Barkley. And I feel like the run game is going to be the story of this game. And the Eagles just have the better run game to me, and they have the better defense. So I like that. I'd love to hear, I'm sure we'll hear from Andy at some point for the Commanders. But yeah, Andy's got the Commanders this week. But I'm splitting and taking Philly. Next up, the big game on the early window for Sunday is going to be Baltimore at Pittsburgh. This is for sole possession of first place in the AFC North. Baltimore opens as 3-point road favorites, which means they were 6-point favorites before the home field advantage for Pittsburgh. And this is surprising because Pittsburgh is usually not underdogs at home, so this is rare. And I feel like if I'm a bettor, if I was betting on this game, I would take Pittsburgh in the points because I feel like they can expose the secondary of Baltimore. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, Baltimore's defense is not as good as people think they are. They have some holes on the offense. We saw it in the Cincy game. If I'm looking at their defense passing-wise, I'm not seeing, Baltimore's not anywhere close to the top 10. In fact, they're at the bottom of the league. They're allowing 295 yards passing. Now, their rush defense is really good. Their rush defense, they're allowing 73 yards a game on the ground defensively, but they are allowing teams to pass all over them. And if Russell Wilson can continue playing the way that he's playing, I feel like George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Mike Williams, I feel like they're going to have some good games. The defense is playing really well. I know Highsmith went down. He had some issues, but it's hard to bet against TJ Watt. Patrick Queen, this is a revenge game for Patrick Queen as well after moving on from the Baltimore Ravens. So we split again on this one. Andy had the Ravens. I have the Steelers in this game. And like I said, if I was betting on this game, I would take the Steelers in the points because I think the Steelers could beat the Ravens by more than 3. I don't know. I may need to go lay some money on that one. But again, early window game. That one is 12 o'clock. I believe it's probably going to be on. I believe it's on CBS. In the national window, in the late window, this is a nationally televised game. The Kansas City Chiefs go to Buffalo, where Buffalo are 2.5-point favorites. The over/under in this game is 45.5. I'll say this. I'm not going to call the Chiefs frauds because I don't think they are. But they are they are very beatable. They have kind of been skating by. And Denver, I thought Denver had a chance in that game. I thought if there was a game that the Chiefs very much could lose, it would have been against Denver. And it came down to a blocked field goal because Denver was well on their way to winning that game. That's not going to happen against Buffalo. That's not going to happen when you've got Amari Cooper out there, when you got Shakir, when you've got Keon Coleman and James Cook, and a very good defense, a defense that could expose the bad tackles of the Kansas City Chiefs. I know the Chiefs could be getting Isaiah Pacheco back, which would give them a three-headed monster in the backfield with Pacheco, Hunt, and Steele. And of course, the receiving core with Worthy and Hopkins. But I feel like Buffalo might be a more complete team. I feel like they can make some plays. And I know Josh Allen had some mistakes against the Colts, but Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes having one of his worst statistical years ever. And I know this is the time of year where the Chiefs get hot, but they're not going to go undefeated. I really don't think the Chiefs are going to go undefeated. They've got some tough games coming up. Like I said, this is one of their toughest ones, and there's some games that they could trip up and lose. They still got, they play the Bills, they play the Chargers, they play the Texans. Those, to me, are the three toughest games on their schedule. They very well could lose all three of those. And with that, me and Andy did agree on this one. We are taking the Bills at home against Kansas City. We'll see if they meet again in the playoffs. But, yeah, I feel like the Bills are going to hand the Chiefs their first loss this weekend. Sunday Night Football has the Cincinnati Bengals at the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers are 1.5-point favorites, surprisingly, in this game. But after the way the Bengals played on Thursday, it doesn't surprise me. Over under 46.5. Chargers have a really good defense. And they're running the ball really well, which are fundamentals in what you need to consistently win in this league. And like I said, they were on my up list this week. Harbaugh has this team very well coached. There's some injuries with Cincy, and Joe Burrow, 4 touchdowns in the air, 1 on the ground, and he was pissed. Something is not clicking on this Cincy team. And there's pieces missing that I think Joe Burrow needs. They brought in Khalil Herbert. Chase Brown has been a really good rookie running back for them, and I think he's a rookie running back that they could build off of. But the Chargers are playing just too good on defense right now. And I don't think Joe Burrow is going to do what he did against the Ravens when it comes to the Chargers. And with that, me and Andy, again, in agreement on this one. We both got the Chargers in this one at home, although I don't really think any LA team playing at home is really at home. But I like the Chargers in this one. I think Justin Herbert could take advantage of a depleted Cincy offense and make the Bengals pay. So, this is going to be an interesting game for Sunday Night Football. The game I will be at personally this Monday night, my Houston Texans taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Houston 6-4, coming off of their first 2-loss winning streak since the first 2 weeks of last season. They are 7.5-point favorites. Dallas is in complete disarray. No Dak Prescott for the rest of the year, so it means it's either going to be Cooper Rush or Trey Lance. They can't get a run game going. They're the worst rushing team in the league. You've got Cooper Rush, who really is coming back down to earth. I know his starting record was like 5-1 as a starter, but that was when Dallas actually had weapons, and people were looking at it. People were looking at some things today. Zach Martin's on the last year of his contract. Lawrence is on the last year of his contract. And we all know how Jerry has been operating in the offseason. I think some guys are going to start making business decisions for the Dallas Cowboys. I've ranted enough about my Texans. I've told you guys what I wanted to see out of this team. I want to see the Dallas Cowboys get stomped. I need to see a decisive win in both the first and second half from the Texans. And if it's one of those close games where Houston only wins by 3 and they don't score in the second half, I might shave my head. I'm not going to do that. My wife wouldn't let me. But that's the feeling that I have is like, I might as well rip my hair out because I cannot sit there and watch the Texans make the same mistakes against this Cowboys team. I want to see how they handle Micah Parsons because he's back, and Overshown could be a problem for this offensive line. But I think this Texans defense is going to feast. I think this Texans defense is going to make life absolutely miserable, especially if they get Will Anderson back. Nico Collins is going to be back for this game. If I have some, and I've got Stroud and Nico on my fantasy team, definitely play them if you got some Texans teams. I think it's pretty obvious. Me and Andy are in agreement. Houston all the way on this one. Who knows? There might be an alcohol-fueled live stream after this one. I don't know. I'm not going to do that to you guys. As much as you guys might want to see it. That'll do it for the game previews. Those are the big games this week. Of course, you got a full slate of NFL games starting Thursday night. Your team is playing. There are some bye weeks, and of course, you guys take a look at the ticker. I've got all the lines in those games. There's also some really good games happening this weekend. Atlanta, Denver is another game I would pay attention to. Obviously, Seattle and San Francisco. That game always has some fun. Good weekend of football being set up in the NFL. Guys, definitely pay attention to that. But again, thank you guys for joining. Everyone that is on right now, sound off in the comments. Rep your team. Shout them out. Let us know. Representing the Extra Point, guys. But always be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Again, we want to get to those 50 subscribers on Twitch. So that way we can start doing some exclusive stuff on Twitch, giveaways, exclusive streams, betting, fantasy, whatever we got. We got some cool stuff cooking for Twitch. We're always going to be right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch for the Extra Point every Tuesday, but we want to give a little something extra on the Twitch stream where we can really have some fun. With that, again, guys, go check out my sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. If you need laptop, PC, tablet, cell phone, any kind of tech repair, go to Gabe. He can either help you get hooked up with it, or there you go. Thank you, Wojab. Make him follow. There you go. Get the word out, guys. We definitely need that. We definitely want that. But yeah, go check out my sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock, for any of your tech needs. Cell phone, laptop, PC, gaming consoles, any of it, guys. Go check them out and get hooked up with either a fix or a new gaming PC, console, laptop, cell phone, tablet. Gabe's going to have it for you. He'll get you hooked up. Tell him Ryan from the Extra Point sent you. With that, we're going to get into the extra picks. And these are done via Prize Picks, guys. So if you want to make some money, Prize Picks actually has some really good offers going on right now. Some promo codes. I'm working on getting my own, but some promo codes where you guys can get some bonus money. If you don't know how Prize Picks works, basically you set your own lineup. You choose players, whether or not they're going to go over or under a certain amount of points, yards, touchdowns, receptions, whatever you guys want. They got some great free squares right now that you guys can get on there. You can turn $10 into $1,000 if you want. But definitely do it via Prize Picks. And it's not just the NFL. They got MLB, NBA getting started, NHL. Any sport you can imagine, go set it up. I've got a season-long one going on right now, and I'm about halfway there on it. But hopefully I can win about $75. I did win earlier this year, though. I would have won 90 if Justin Jefferson had gotten 12 more yards. That's how close it was. But for the extra picks, guys, we got C.J. Stroud on my over 231.5 passing yards against this Dallas defense. I get it. Diggs, Bland, all that stuff. But the Dallas defense is in disarray right now. And I know you've got Parsons back, but this is a bottom-of-the-league defense. 362.9 yards passing. You got Nico Collins coming back. You still have Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, John Mechie's emerging. I think C.J. Stroud, and this line has gotten better pass protection. I will say that from this Detroit game. They weren't really getting the run game going, but they were pass protecting a little bit better for C.J. Stroud. And with Nico Collins coming back, that's going to make a difference. So C.J. Stroud over 231.5 passing yards. Lamar Jackson, I got him under 42.5 rushing yards. This is a good Steelers defense. I know I picked 2 quarterbacks, but we all know how much Lamar Jackson likes to run. And, Lamar Jackson was held under 40 yards with the Bengals. And like I said, I think the Bengals may have provided the blueprint for how to slow down this Baltimore offense. And they held Derrick Henry under 100 yards. But I think they can hold Lamar Jackson in check. They're a much better defense than Cincy. And I think they could end up being the difference. And it's going to be because they hold Lamar Jackson in check. I haven't done a Thursday night game this year, I don't believe, for extra picks. So I've got Terry McLaurin over 63.5 receiving yards. I'm looking at the Philly defense. And I know they haven't allowed over 200 yards passing, but if I'm looking at the passing offense for Washington, they're averaging over 223 yards. And a lot of it has been because of Terry McLaurin. And he had a great game this past Sunday. I think if they get him going against Philly, they're going to end up winning this game. So that'll do it for the extra picks. Guys, thank y'all for hanging with me tonight. I know Andy couldn't be here. Family stuff, whatever. Hey, you know what? Love Andy. We'll see him next week. As we go into as we're coming off of the Dallas Cowboys, but rough weekend, and want to thank you guys for hanging with me tonight. I'm glad we had a good night of viewership, and I'm not going to do my usual sign off, say goodbye and good night. I just want to say bye to a special friend. And I loved him. And it's always hard because you never know how quiet a house can be until somebody is missing. So we're going to say goodnight. And guys, enjoy the games this weekend. And enjoy your furry friends around the house while you got them.
Toby. What are you doing? What are you telling me? Toby. Get back. Go. What is this? Toby. Are you done? Is that all you got?